wanted to talk about restorative justice for a moment. Someone gave me an article recently, and it just really puts a fine point on the things we've talked about in the past. We're in serious trouble in our public school systems. Many schools are rife with lawless behavior from students, particularly minority students, because of the new trendy psychotherapeutic model that is called restorative justice. Now, when you hear restorative justice, you should think of social justice. Social justice is not justice at all. It is really redistribution of monies and ideas and redistribution of privileges that people have in society. Restorative justice in reality is not justice at all, but is a progressive ideology that refuses to hold students accountable for their behavior, replacing it with what Paul Sperry, who wrote the article that someone gave me, calls a touchy-feely alternative, such as a talking circle. So you have problems going on in the public schools. You might have violence going on, but what we need to do is, because we have to bring these students into the talking circle. The entire concept of restorative justice is based upon the assumption, and one of the organizations that I called out is Texas Appleseed, which is Austin-based, but it has been influential in Dallas public schools and schools also, as you will see here, even in Wichita Falls. And it's all based upon the assumption that black students are being suspended at higher rates than whites, and all of that, of course, is due. Of course, that's true. Black students are suspended at higher rates than whites, and that's due to what? It has to be one thing. There's no examination of the culture. There's no examination of the one-parent family. There's no examination of the lack of morality in the minority culture. There's no examination of that. It's got to be due to, white racism. That's it. It's got to be it. So because it's white racism in the administrators of school, police departments have quit giving out tickets, because if they give tickets out, minorities get more tickets. So then we got to quit that, because that's racist. And blacks and Hispanics were receiving higher percentages of tickets than white students. That's not to say that white students never broke the rules. They did, but the percentages were much higher in the minority class. So what's happened? Lawlessness increases. In New York City, public school students caught stealing, doing drugs, even attacking people. They avoid suspension under the new progressive guidelines because, as we're told, Paul Sperry's article, 2015, he says, every reasonable effort must be made to correct student behavior through restorative practices. And they have a 32-page discipline code that is given in the New York City schools. Chicago. The Chicago Teachers Union complained that restorative justice practices left teachers struggling to control unruly kids. At that time, when the article was written, the Chicago mayor was Rahm Emanuel, and it hasn't gotten any better with the current mayor in Chicago, announces the school is moving away from zero-tolerance policy and promoting restorative practices. Well, they're pumping into the streets all of this lawless behavior and what we see going on in Chicago. Syracuse, New York, restorative practice or restorative justice practices have caused discipline to collapse, and teachers regularly complain that teens are more apt to fight, mouth off to teachers, roam the halls under lenient policies, all of that which puts students and staff at risk and makes quality instruction impossible, says some of the teachers that have been interviewed. Los Angeles, California, on-campus offenses have spiked because of similar policies being implemented. Federal orders came down from the Obama administration to reduce suspension of African Americans, direct order, after which crimes by blacks were ignored and threats against teachers skyrocketed and nothing was done about it. So in place of traditional discipline, the Los Angeles USD, LAUSD, has restorative justice counselors. Orange County, California, for example, violent, disrespectful student behavior is increasing because restorative practices have been implemented. Santa Ana, California, the same thing. Restorative policies have had similar results. Middle school kids now regularly smoke pot in bathrooms, some of them in class. They attack the staff. They spit on teachers. They pelt them with eggs. They threaten to stab them. Unsurprisingly, 65% of Santa Ana teachers say restorative programs are not working. Philadelphia, what's happening? Philadelphia schools, talking circles have replaced traditional discipline. Minority students regularly act out. They dare teachers to kick them out of class. The same thing in San Diego, California. Same thing in Oakland, California. Same thing in Portland, Oregon. Same thing in Washington, D.C. schools. San Francisco schools, the same thing. According to teacher Paul Bruno, restorative justice not only refuses to discipline poor behavior, but encourages bad behavior. It does so by lavishing attention on students for committing infractions, because we're all going to go to a talking circle. I'm going to go to the counselor. We're going to sit in her office or his office, and we're going to talk about it. And suspensions, all of these suspensions that have now been replaced by talking circles, simply allow the students to have a lot more attention than they did, and they give them social dominance even inside the classroom. So in spite of that, you might think, okay, wow, that's a terrible track record, Bill. Do you know that Wichita Falls ISD practices restorative justice? It's right here in our own school system. Restorative justice. That's amazing to me. But most Texans believe that this is only on the East Coast and the left coast of America. But that's not true. It's occurring right here in Texas, Dallas, Wichita Falls. And that's taking place under the aegis of not only some of these organizations, but Texas Appleseed. It's high time for Texans to get back to common sense local control of our school systems, as well as discipline strategies. And if we don't, education is going to continue to languish. Restorative justice is nothing more than social justice in a new dress.